wildflowers and the California state rock serpentine, also known as the mineral serpentenite. Makes a special soil here that the native flowers do really well, and they introduced European invading plants and so forth, and Asian plants and stuff don't like so much. So it's kind of a special protected place from being a golf course a long time ago. So I'm gonna point out some stuff as we walk around. But here's a beautiful view and the little trailhead here to do the loop. So here we go. These are right here. These are called tidy tips. You can see the yellow with the little white tips on them. Those are really nice. There's some other tiny ones out here called gold fields, which look like little sunflowers, sort of. And then this is one called owl's clover, right down there. It used to be called orthocarpus. Now it's in with another genus, which I can't remember right now. It's one of those days. Anyway, more stuff to see. There's a couple other ones here. What else can we see right here? Small blue-eyed grass, which is a type of iris, but it's called blue-eyed grass. Little tiny purple flowers there. More owl's clover. There's some gold fields next to it. Little tiny yellow flowers. And a little small lotus flower, a little tiny lotus, which is the basically a weed from what I remember. There's a mallow down there, that kind of light pink flower. It's a type of mallow. Let's see what else we can see. Normally, I think I'm like a month late here, but normally with all the rains and stuff, this whole hill and area right in front of us should be just covered with color. There's plenty of fruits here. You can see the dried seeds from everything from the fruiting of those flowers, so I'm definitely late. But you can see how much stuff was here. We just got here earlier. There's a chunk of the state rock down there. It's kind of a blue-green color. Serpentinite is the mineral. Serpentine is the rock, state rock of California. And it's low in calcium, high magnesium, which is kind of the opposite balance that most plants want, which is why these plants do well, because they evolve with this harsh soil, whereas some of the other plants who came in late with Europeans and other settlers haven't quite adjusted to yet. So that's why this place is preserved. And as you walk along the ground here, you'll see some of the serpentinite peeking out along the ground here. So more tidy tips, more mallow, more gold fields, lots of tiny gold fields here. Kind of a goldenrod colored yellow. Nice. These are all, so as you can see, the wild oats here from Europe, similar to the oats you eat in your oatmeal, have come in and gotten used to the soil. This area is probably not as rich in serpentinite as the other parts of the park. And like anything else, the plants eventually adapt. But initially they weren't growing here like this. I remember coming here a long time ago and these plants were not here. There weren't weeds all over like this. So nature does adjust, and these things have learned to grow in the harsher soil. There's a nice, there's a monk's hood. It's kind of closed up a little bit. You see a little spur. I'm sorry, not monk's hood, larkspur. There's a larkspur there. So you can tell by the shape on the back, it's like a little thorny spur out the back of the flower. And it opens up into a nicer flower, but they're starting to dry up. And more owl's clover here. You're blocking the thing, it's shade. Move. So more owl's clover there. It's nice. You see little tiny, it's a flower head. Those little tiny white things are the actual flowers. More larkspur over there. More goldfields way over there. And some other nice stuff in the distance there. So let's keep going down here. More blue-eyed grass. Let's go. More serpentinite down there, the green-blue stuff. More gold fields. A lot more larkspur down there. Nicer looking versions of it. They haven't dried up yet. It's kind of a purple-blue color. Down there's one. You can hear the insects are going crazy here. There's some larkspurs in the distance there. And some of the rocky outcrops. And then they have oak woodland right next to this area. So you get the little scrub oaks and stuff like that in here. Here's one closer up. They grow quite low here, even though this is pretty big. There's some of the oaks out here that are there's a thing called wind browsing. It's not as windy here today as it usually is, but on the coast it's very, very windy. So you get this thing called Krummholz, a German term called wind browsing. That the wind is just harsh and kind of dries out the plants and beats them down, so they grow low to the ground to maintain their moisture and stuff. So you see it a lot on the coast around here, but not so much here, just a little bit here. There's a scrub jay over there on a rocky outcrop poking around. It's kind of far, so you probably don't see it very well. And then you hear that bird in the distance, the bouncing ball. Is we talked about in another stream where in this country, you guys have a group of birds in the UK known as tits. And, of course, we can't say tit in this country without offending somebody. So they have to say bush tit, wren tit, something like that. The bouncing ball bird in the background is a male wren tit. So it sounds like like a bouncing ball thing. So we can't call it a tit or a wren space tit. It's one word, wren tit. Because you see tit written in literature, it's offending to most of the Western folks. And then down here are these yarrow flowers. You have relative to this in Europe as well. This is Achillea millefolium. It's a very dissected leaves, hence the name millefolium. Actually, at a quick glance, it looks almost like hemlock a little bit, but it's not poisonous. It's actually used medicinally. So that's kind of nice. This is the white yarrow. There's a golden yarrow on the coast, which is more bush-like, more shrub-like. But they're both very pretty common flowers here. That's a good one here. This is a good one here. If you go on hikes on trails out here, this little unassuming thing looks like a typical weed. It's actually a native plant. A lot of weeds are introduced, hardy plants that live in like disturbed habitats. And a lot of the plants here don't live in disturbed habitats. This is like a preserve for plants, but this is everywhere around here, called pineapple weed. It looks a little bit pineapple-like, the flowers, but the real trick is the actual, if you pick it and crush it, it smells like pineapple. It's pretty amazing. So that's actually a weed that's also a native plant. Whereas all this stuff in here, like the oats, and sometimes you get some ryegrass in here, and some triticum, some wheat growing as a weed, and all kinds of other things that are weedy, not from the US. Well, at least not North America. And then I see some other flowers here. Let's see. That's a new growth on the little crumpled up oaks there. So here you go, some more little clusters of flowers here. There's some gold fields, some tidy tips. Gold fields with little tiny, tiny yellow ones. There's I showed this at the other park called the Blue Dicks. I think that part of the stream got canceled. YouTube had a glitch. So watch out for Verizon, the signal sucks. But it's used to be called Brodia, now it's Diclostema pulchella. And That's that little stalk with the little flowers on the tip of it. It's called blue dix, which is funny. It's funny, you can't say tit, but you can say dix. So there you go. Those are really nice tidy tips. Very nice tidy tips with the white tips on it. It's very cool. More weeds in the foreground. Lots of color in the distance there. You can see all the the mallow, the pink mallow, tidy tips, and the gold fields. And of course, I got a great view here of the Bay Area. So that's going down into Palo Alto down there. And coming up here into Bay. I believe that's Mount Diablo over there. The dark hump kind of in the middle of the picture there. And then the foothills all around here with houses and stuff around the park. So this park's been preserved, like I said, from being a golf course, which is pretty special because development around here is pretty nuts and land is very expensive. So in order to make this the way it is and to keep it is kind of a special feat. I was always fighting with my dad about it because he's a golfer and I'm not. So it was the conservationist versus golfer argument. So, but yeah, so there's the bay. And then higher up, from a certain vantage point, you can sometimes see San Francisco through the fog or the clouds. But San Francisco's actually that way. And this is basically, that's what you call the East Bay over there, way across the water. And then South Bay down there, down towards San Jose, which is behind these hills over here. So, yeah, lots of flowers down here as well. Plenty are fruiting, so they've already gone through their process. Here's a the flower, state flower of California poppy down there, the orange guy, which is pretty prevalent. So it's not that special when you see it, but it is the state flower. What else we got over here? Plenty of the same stuff. This California poppies, tidy tips. There's some little wavy leaf things, look like kind of like iris flower, iris petal, or I can't say petals, iris leaves that are very wavy. It's called wavy leaf soap plant or soap root. And I'll show you some bigger ones later. That's a pretty small one over there, but it's flowering right now. And it's special because the Native Americans used to dig up, this has a pretty sizable kind of bulb underneath, and they dig it up and they realized it had some toxin effects on it. So they used to chop it up and use it to stupefy fish, kind of like they do with the buckeye fruits. There's the saponin glycosides, this chemical poisons in there, kind of nasty. And in small dose, you could actually stupefy fish. They just kind of freeze in place, and they're not dead, but they're basically immobilized. And you can just go pick them up. You don't have to go fishing for them. It's kind of clever, chemical warfare. There's a really nice larkspur right there with sunlight, not totally dried up, and you can see the little spurs there. That's really cool. And the tiny gold fields next to it, they're starting to dry up. And this lovely, that's a tall ripgut weed there. Those are pretty nasty. Called ripgut because the fruits get into the belly of a cow or some other kind of animal, and basically can kind of tear into the gut because they're corkscrew shaped when they dry up, and they can cause all kinds of gastrointestinal upset. Not much else stuff right here. Pretty much the same ones I already mentioned. Lots of the same stuff. So it is protected. I'll tell you not to get out and walk around with stuff because this is a preserve for native plants. There's also San Francisco Bay checker spot butterfly, which is known to be here, so it's an endangered species. And there's also a San Francisco Bay garter snake subspecies that is known to be only in a few places in California. So that also helped protect this place, not just the plants. And also the scenic beauty. You know, you need to have a place to come out, decompress after a bad week, and just to get some peace and quiet. It is multi-use, so you get horseback riding, dogs on leash, people jogging through here. So there's all kinds of stuff, but the main goal is to preserve it. And then you get some people who like to come through here and just listen to music because they can enjoy the nature. So there you go. More blue dicks down there. More rock outcrops. Lots of rock outcrops around here of the serpentenite and some other rocks. More folded up California poppies. Lots of weeds through here now. Didn't really have all these weeds before. There's the white yarrow up close. And you can see the dissected leaves down there. Close up of blue dicks again, the Brodea, or now called Diclostema. There's another one. And this is all shaded over here, but you get lots of blue dicks down there. Some larkspurs poking out. Blue-eyed grass. And more orthocarpus. Bell's clover. Again, I forgot the new name, but the old genus is Orthocarpus. I have to look that one up again. So every time they redo a flora of a place, they end up changing a lot of names of things. You got to keep up with it. Here's a nice stalk of larkspur. I'll go up the stalk. You can see a shot of it there. So it can grow quite tall. It's very colorful. And keep going up the hill here. There's other trails around here too you can take. That one goes down to another parking lot on the other side. But I came in my favorite way out the back entrance. There's more California poppy. There's a close-up of the soap plant. See, it's kind of wavy leaves right there. So it has the toxic root in there you can use for various chemical warfare. There's a nice exposed serpentinite, kind of blue-green color. It's also related to asbestos. There's actually some asbestos fibers you can find in some of this natural rock. So it tends to have this kind of ropey, flaky looking appearance, like asbestos has. More of the same stuff. Then you get this little transition zone here to the grassland into the oak woodland. And then you go up this little trail up the back, and oak woodland becomes chaparral, which is hotter, exposed, more harsh, more plants that can thrive in harsher, hotter environments. Not as dry as oak woodland, which is nice and shady, and generally pretty moist, but can be dry too. So that's where we're going here. And sometimes you find some good stuff on the way up here, but I'm not seeing it now. More blue dicks, more white yarrow. Lots of blue dicks down there. So the flowers are doing pretty well still, even though late in the season. It's a close-up one. There. And see what else we can find here. Okay, so now we're going to transition into oak woodland. So here you get this bush called toyon, which has red berries and serrated leaves. Then you get coast live oak and California bay inside of here. There's a bay tree. I explained the bay at the last site. Some related to the Mediterranean Bay, sort of, but it's much stronger. Can be used for cooking, but a different recipe. And a lot of because of the moisture, you get a lot of fungi in here and some mosses on the trees, which is nice. And if you listen carefully, they're birdies. So that's nice. Very quiet here this time of day. Lots of nasty poison oak. I pointed this out at the last site. Nice and green and unassuming here. You can see the trifoliate leaves, lobed, typical look of poison oak. But it can change to be red or yellowish color, curls, gets more oily. And no matter what stage you touch it in, it's nasty. You get contact dermatitis. The genus is Toxicodendron, which makes sense because it's a toxic branch, basically, toxic plant. And it can be pretty nasty. There's poison ivy on the East Coast. There's also poison sumac. They're all related, causing nasty contact dermatitis. I heard even cashews can give you a similar effect, but I forgot if the chemical in cashews is the same or not. But nasty stuff. And even the dry branches have the oils. And if you burn the dry branches or the fresh stuff, you can breathe in the toxin and then you get it inside your lungs, which is really bad. And I've had it where it swelled my face up before. You get it. Sometimes it takes weeks to get rid of it. My dad used to bring it home from the golf course. It was terrible. So I avoid it like crazy. And even though I know exactly what it looks like, dogs don't know what it looks like. A lot of people don't. And they bring it home and you touch it and you get it. So it's bad news. Bad news. There's more of it there. Grows on a tree sometimes, or grows sometimes viney up a tree, or sometimes just little clusters on the ground. And then there's more of the maidenhair fern, which is nice, delicate fern, very, very delicate. So it's a fern. It's not a typical flowering plant. It's just a primitive vascular plant. So it has spores. This one doesn't have any. But if you turn over the wood fern, the chain fern, various